I was talking to Marnie and Shannon down in Mankato about the cool stuff they're doing at Minnesota State University down there, using Camtasia for Mac to record lectures. So I thought I'd just create this quick tutorial on how to set up Camtasia for Mac to record lectures. Step one, no matter what you're recording with, you need to have all of your materials ready, right? So if you're going to do a lecture using Keynote or PowerPoint, make sure you have that already squared away and ready to go. And really, you're recording three things when you record a lecture. You're recording your screen, so whatever appears there. If you're using a PowerPoint slide, for example, that's going to be recorded. You're using a camera. In this case, I'm using a MacBook, and I've got an iSight built into it, so that's the camera I'll be using here. And then you need a microphone to record your voice. Once you've got all of your stuff squared away, the next thing is to actually practice it. You don't have to practice your whole lecture, although obviously if you have time to do that, that's awesome. But you need to at least practice the first 30 seconds or a minute and just make sure that your equipment is working. I like to move around a lot. I'm very haptic and kinetic when I give lectures and presentations, so sometimes I need to have the camera set wide, for example, and have a wireless microphone that kind of follows me around. Obviously, in this case, I'm recording a tutorial, so as you can see, I'm pretty static, so I'm not going to be moving around a lot, and you'll just see me sitting here and slowly going bald rather than walking around. But in general, when I give lectures, I move around a lot. Yeah, now, a laptop, something like that, you may not have an option to zoom way out and get really wide, so it's more about where you're placing the computer. Obviously, you're going to have some constraints there depending on the classroom or theater or stage or wherever it is that you're giving this lecture. But try and set it up and try and just practice it, at least a minute or two of it, before you actually get into the lecture, so you don't have the equipment getting in your way and you can actually give the lecture. By default, when you come into Camtasia for Mac, this camera is going to be off, so I'll just click that to show what that looks like. And this is usually what you'll see, something like this in Camtasia. So here in Camtasia for the Mac, you've got a few options, and this microphone button here, that's going to be the first thing you're going to take a look at. See, this little drop-down arrow allows you to choose your input. You can see I've got three potential inputs here. I've got a USB microphone, I've got that built-in microphone for the laptop, which you don't really want to use unless you're really going to be close to your laptop. You need to be within within a foot, and the closer to your microphone you are, the better. So don't use the built-in microphone unless you absolutely have to. Use a wireless mic, use a USB mic, and get that thing as close to your mouth as you can. And 99 times out of 100 you're going to be happier with it. So once you've selected the microphone that you want to use, you want to make sure that this button is actually green. If it's grayed out, like the camera button is right now, that means it's off. You don't have voice recording turned on. When you're giving a lecture, obviously for the most part, you're probably going to want to record your voice, so make sure that thing is turned green. Next one over, of course, we've already taken a look at really quickly, which is the camera button. To the right of that, you've got the same little drop-down menu. Unless you're really hardcore and have a bunch of cameras plugged in, you've probably only got one or two options here. In this case, like I said, I'm using the MacBook, which means I've got the built-in iSight, and that's the only camera I have on this thing, so that's the one I want. To turn it back on, all I have to do is hit where it says camera off, so I click right on top of that guy. It's going to turn it green again and show me that preview that we saw a minute ago. So here I am, wave high, fantastic. And then the last thing we can do here in terms of recording things and our recording options in this little window is the system audio. So if you're playing music through your computer speakers, for example, or there's a specific audio event that you want to capture on the computer itself. In other words, you don't want to capture it out of the speakers, you want to capture what's coming right across the sound card so that you get really nice system audio. You would click the speaker icon to turn that on as well. That can get really distracting though if you have warnings or other things popping up on the laptop that you don't want to capture, so unless you have a specific reason for doing it, I usually leave this off. Now, even though those are the only three buttons other than the record button in the Camtasia visual, there is one last thing that I normally like to do. This is not required. It's kind of weird for most people to do, so you definitely don't have to do it. I just want to show you what I normally do, especially when I'm concerned about how I'm going to output it. So let's say your LMS only allows or only plays back videos that are 1024 by 768 or smaller. Most screen resolutions are much higher than that. If I click on my little displays in the menu bar here, you can see I would be recording, if I just record the full screen, I'm recording at a resolution of 1280 by 800. What that means is if I end up compressing that to a smaller format and shoving it into a 1024 by 768 window, either it's going to get really small or after I record everything, I'm going to have to do a crop in order to just record a smaller area of my screen. A lot of people do that. It's not a big deal. If you don't mind doing that, then you can just hit record and rock and roll. I personally like to avoid as much post-production stuff as possible, so I usually change my screen resolution down to a smaller resolution so that everything fits, so that I don't have to worry about a menu escaping my crop area or anything like that. To do that, if you don't have this little displays thing in your menu bar yet, you just go up to the apple in the upper left corner and open up your system preferences. System prefs may also be on the dock or any number of different places. Then you would just go over to the displays button under hardware. And once it loads those displays, it's going to give you a whole bunch of resolutions to choose from. Choose the largest one that your LMS will deliver. You can ask a tech support person if you're not sure. I'll just choose 1024 by 768 here. After a second, everything's going to flash and freak out on you, and then everything will get shoved into this smaller recording window. Now, like I said, the cool thing about this is now I don't have to worry. I can push my mouse cursor all the way to the edges of the frame. I don't ever have to worry about my mouse cursor disappearing out of my movie, or menus dropping out, or dialog boxes, getting cut off. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So that's what I like about this. The last thing I would recommend, if you do want to use this method, is hit this little checkbox down here, which will create a little displays icon in your menu bar so you can quickly switch back and forth between resolutions if you're going to be doing a decent amount of recording. So I'll close the system preferences, jump back over to Camtasia, and now we're ready to record. Again, remember, you're recording three things. You're recording the screen, you're recording your voice, and you're recording yourself on a camera. So the last thing to do is just crack open my Keynote. There we go. So I will jump back over to Camtasia by pressing Command-Tab, or clicking on it depending on your resolution. And the last thing is to hit your big old red record button here. And once you record that, you're recording the whole deal. It's going to tell you what the keyboard shortcut is, which is Shift-Command-2, and that'll help you stop it. It'll also put an icon up in your menu bar if it's not too small. So now I'm ready to present, and I can start lecturing. So I can play my Keynote just like I would. I'm going to go full screen here. And what's cool about this is it's recording everything. It's recording all of those aspects. So now I can just give my lecture. I don't need to worry about the recording software or any of that stuff. It's going to stay out of my way. And I can walk through my presentation and talk about what I want to talk about in the lecture. Once you're all done, I'm going to just escape out of my Keynote here, and then I'm going to press Shift-Command-2 to stop recording in Camtasia. After a second, it's going to open up that Camtasia project file. I'll zoom out a little bit so we can see it, but here's me talking, and there's my presentation. And if I move this playhead up, I can see there's my presentation, and there's me talking with a fantastic look on my face. The last thing to do is switch your screen resolution back out to that larger resolution. 1024 by 768 feels pretty cramped nowadays. So click on that displays icon in your menu bar and crank it back out to something a little larger. And that's going to make it nice and big. And now I can kind of make my Camtasia project file a little bit larger. And I'm back out to that nice wide resolution. And I can continue working with my recorded lecture.